Uh, I'm not doing too good on time. I had a lot going on lately. Flynn in the hospital, and of course, Brian stayed with him the whole time. I wanted to trade places with him, but I had appointments, and I had to stay here with Liam and Brody. So, just worked out that way. But anyways, just shit going on. But I really want to try to get, this is going to be a small one. Everybody's here inside. So I just want to do a little quick one for y'all. Let's see. And I have got some shit that I need to share. I haven't been able to do that yet. Just, you're gonna have to bear with me. So many things I want to say, like right now. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna do it. I mean, I know I've got a lot of explaining to do, but I'm just gonna give you this little part of the story. At one point, now I am gonna explain that woman Ray. Okay. I helped Brian get his license and a vehicle. He wouldn't have been able to do that without me, y'all. Okay. And very quickly, once he was on the road, he was going there. She always needed help with her house. Her son, Michael, was constantly getting fucked up and destroying things. And that went on for years. I mean, you name it, She just always was asking Brian for help. And me, just, this sweet old poor woman who's being abused by her son, he stole a card from her medicine. He just treated her like shit. But she wouldn't kick him out or anything. Anyways, whatever. She needed help. And she loved my husband. She just adored him. And, of course, go help. I never said no. I was always happily giving up, his time that would have been spent with me and his children up so she could get what she needed from him for years. Happily. In fact, I'd even say to her, like, I sent her a message once. I told Brian I want him to be at your house, but he had to go somewhere else first. I'd rather have him be at your house. I did that, people. She never responded. In fact, I never got anything from her. Never, no thank yous. Never any sign or show of any appreciation for all the time that my husband was giving to her. I'm not kidding. Not one fucking time. If I ever reached out to her, there was never a response. And I just, whatever, I didn't think much of it. She must not be a big, when it came to Brian, she was. I didn't realize that at the time, duh. Anyway, the point is, when everything, was becoming obvious to me, and I was finally seeing the reality of it, it was very clear that this woman was not even remotely close to being a friend of mine. No. In fact, it would have to be said that clearly she was my enemy. And she was stealing from me. Not just my husband's time. I'll tell you all that later. But I was giving without anything in return. Not one thing, not even a thank you. Nothing. And so, my eyes were being opened. And after some things happened and stuff, and I'm telling Brian, I just am not comfortable with you going there anymore. Because, and this is after I reached out to her very nicely, and for she maybe responded to me twice very strangely, and then suddenly it was zip, silence. No, silence. Never any assuring me, never wondering why I was thinking what I was thinking. No question about that. No question. Like, why are you thinking that, Marissa? No, none of that. No, I assure you, you're wrong. None of that. Zip of that. Just all of a sudden, she's silent. Okay. One night, I know I'm skipping way ahead, but I just feel like telling this part right now. Because it just shows you where my feelings were to him. Nowhere. Okay, so I'm telling him that I'm really upset, I remember in the kitchen, I'm like, kind of like saying, what the fuck, Brian? She's not even talking to me. What is going on here? There's something wrong with this picture. He says, she just doesn't want the drama, Marissa. He's smiling, telling me she just doesn't want to deal with the drama. She's a good person. I swear to God. He said, she's a good person, Marissa. So, a woman who took advantage of my kindness and my husband's time, his expertise, all kinds of things, which believe me, it's a long list of things. He did beer and butt runs for her. Anything she needed. She needed a fan. He went into the store and took, I don't know how many fucking pictures of every fan they had. I'll take as many pictures as you want, Ray. Just tell me which one you like. He had time for that. Just the extra mile for this person. That woman who took all that and adored him, inappropriately spoke to him, said nothing nice about me ever. In fact, said she should probably go. Not kidding. And more. That person, that's a good person. A woman who takes advantage of someone's husband, who she shits on and completely ignores, that's a good person. A woman who can't get on the phone and assure another woman who's like really losing her mind here, thinking what's going on. She can't do that because she don't need the drama. She's creating more drama by making me wonder what the fuck is going on. But that my opinions, my feelings, how I would feel about this, that just didn't come into play at all. At all. No. What Ray's feelings. Ray, she didn't want drama, and she's a good person. Brian thinks that a woman who pretty much shit on me, shit all over me, that's a good person. But to Brian it is. How someone treats his wife, that doesn't have any bearing on it. It doesn't. And she just doesn't want the drama, Marissa. She's a good person, and I need to go and rake her yard and do whatever else. So, he wasn't even thinking, like, how's Marissa gonna feel if this woman isn't even speaking to her? And I'm gonna continue going there, even though Marissa thinks we're probably having an affair at this point. Marissa thinks we're having an affair. I'm just gonna say, Marissa, what you're thinking is absolutely ridiculous and crazy. And we're not gonna even, like, give that, like, any attention, because it's ridiculous. What you think is ridiculous, Marissa. And I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna keep going there. She needs me. So he didn't even think how that would make me feel, because he didn't care how it would make me feel. That did not matter to him. He did not even think about how that would make me feel, that he was going to keep going somewhere where I thought he was having an affair with that woman. He knew that. He knew I thought they were having an affair. But he wasn't gonna, he wasn't even gonna, like, let that be anything, because it was just ludicrous. And he called that person a good person to me. Now, did he ever tell Ray that I was a good person? You know what he said? He said, she knew I was a felon and she never treated me like I was, like, gonna steal from her. Brian, I married you. I fucking married you. So what does that make me? If she's a good person, I'm a fucking queen. But I'm getting just shoved aside. For this good person who wasn't even speaking to me at the time. Yeah. She was above that. She had no obligation to me. Yeah. No desire or need to address my concerns. No, she just didn't want any drama. But come on, Brian, I need my door fixed. This is obviously not. This chapter is kind of a weird one, because I just want to make this point of, how I rated. That's how I rated at that point. And it's totally, I mean, that's why I would be getting all the treatment that you're going to hear about, because I didn't rate. I just didn't rate. Yeah, he vowed to me and I was his wife and the mother of his children. But when it comes down to it, I'm here. And other people all the way up here. But this was the most loyal man alive, according to his friends. I guess that's what they consider loyal. If a man does whatever he can to please everybody and then shits on his wife, that's loyal. It's like, I can't even make this shit up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, huh? Oh boy. I'm so excited to get to the real meat and potatoes of all this bullshit. The rotten meat and potatoes. So I'm skipping all kinds of crap. But I will give a little bit more. Okay, sorry about that. I had to get that because I've been thinking about it. Every day since all this has occurred, I ruminate one thing about it, you know, or some part about it. That's what it's done to me. You know, it just makes me think back, like, how was I treated and what was really going on? And, you know, I'm just ruminating. And it's not anything I control. I think it's part of my OCD anyways. But really, I mean, you know, this has transformed my life into pure hell. And if anybody thinks that's just something you can get past and get over, you can't. When your life has turned into pure hell, that's not something you can just say, I'm just going to get over it and move on. That's not possible to do. It's just not possible. Never mind my kids. And yes, there was a woman who literally told me that. And I will get to those people at some point. What a piece of shit. For real. This woman that I'm talking about, I thought she was a good person. I thought very wrong. Very wrong. Ugh, gross. Anyways, okay, so what am I saying? God, I'm sorry. I'm all over. And, not fun. Oh my God. So, when we moved here, and I was miserable for that first year, I reconnected with my friend, my very old friend, and she lived in Arizona. So it wasn't like we were, you know, seeing each other. We were just, you know, having a lot of messaging and conversations. Let's see. There were things that happened. Sometimes he was really mean to me. He'd get grouchy and, you know. But he was here most of the time. Like I said, at the time, he didn't have his license. He didn't have a vehicle. And all the driving and everything was on me. That friend I reconnected with actually convinced me and helped me find a little job as a cashier at a store called The Depot. And that ended up being really good for me. It wasn't a lot of money. The owner was, you know, he paid you the very least amount that he had to. And I did the work of 2 people. I was one of the best employees he had. I could get through a line of people in no time. And I heard it a lot. The customers had no problem telling me, you're the best one. They loved me. I like I already said, I was hit on all the time. But even not just hit on, just I was well liked, okay? I'd be there and people would say, oh, I'm so glad it's you. I'm so glad it's you. Everyone else sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that was it. And I worked hard. I'm just that kind of person anyways. If I'm doing a job, I want to do my best. You know, and that's just how I am. It's just something I naturally do. I'm gonna take on shit. I'm gonna do it right, and I don't know, just me. So that was good for me. I think, you know, Brian would get what's the word? Aggravated sometimes that he was always the one here with the kids and, you know, was stuck here. And I can understand that. And he would get jealous sometimes, you know. But the way he would treat me, like, I was so happy to tell all these people how great he was. And that I was so lucky to have such an awesome husband and father of my children. And that I was happily married and so forth and so on. You know, he would just get mad. Oh, you got a candy bar from so-and-so. You know. just acting like, I wasn't being true to him. He did that a lot. And I was like, you're just so wrong. Like, Brian, I love you. If I didn't, I could take many chances to show you that. I don't, but I do, and it's really important to me that I'm a true devoted person, and I'm devoted to you. I had to tell him that a lot, but he would send me a lot of like love messages and just telling me he wanted to be sexual with me and stuff like that. He would send me a lot of those kinds of messages, and even post like, got 4 boys that love you. He did that, and I liked that. I do have some of those old messages from him, but sadly there is a long time of messages from him that I accidentally deleted, which I'm so pissed about that, but it just happened. So there's a gap from a gap of time where I'm missing our messages between each other. But oh well. So that was the way it was for a while. I had that job for at least a couple years, and I did work a lot. I was constantly being asked to go in on my days off, but I was still getting everyone to all the appointments and doing all the shopping and all the errands and everything, I would even bring Brian to Portland if he had, a job he could do or something like that. That would happen. We were pretty active, or I was active. Because I was working and doing all that and everything. And still dealing with his, outbursts of anger here and there. Like I said, it wasn't a daily thing for him. It was just like every so often, time would go by between them, and then he'd have a rage outburst. And, never got a sorry for those things. Never. He never apologized for getting out of hand. The most he would do as an apology would be like, because I had been asking for him to put a lock on our bathroom door because I didn't have a lock. And I'm the only woman in this house. Sometimes I'm going to lock the bathroom door. And I asked him for that for ages. After one of his outbursts where he, hurt me, caused me physical harm, he put the lock on the door without a word. So I guess that was his way of apologizing. I don't know. But never any I'm sorry. Because Brian is a very, I've done nothing wrong person. He has a very hard time saying, I did something bad. I did the wrong thing. No. He doesn't say, I feel so bad for how I hurt you. I think I've already said that. No, that's not his personality. He has a very hard time being the bad guy or looking like a bad guy or, he just does. That's not his bag. He always wants to be the one who's done no wrong ever. He'll always find a way to make it, excusable or, there was a reason or, and I can give more evidence of that at some point, but, and I'm sorry, I know this isn't the greatest video here, but it gives you something, right? It gives you something. And I will try. I've got a lot going on, but I'm going to try to focus and be able to make you a good one soon. Thank ya.